How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. So we're talking about some, comments from Brian Cashman yesterday. Some interesting ones, dropping some gems, some news on Rodon and Stanton, and of course Jason Dominguez, and the state of this team, where it's going, if they're going to make any more additions. Of course, he was rather vague, but said that they are going to be looking at all opportunities to tinker and reinforce this roster. Obviously, starting pitching, bullpen support at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And he said if it makes sense, they'll consider it. And, we expect the Yankees to be in that mindset all the time. But doesn't seem like they're making any big splash moves. According to John Heyman, they did offer Blake Snell a 6-year, $150 million deal. So I didn't know the exact numbers, but $25 million per season. They rejected it. I honestly don't know if he's going to get much more than that. If he does, good for him. If he doesn't, he may want to come begging back and bend the knee to Cashman to get what he was offered originally. So we'll see how that goes. I definitely feel as though right now the Yankees are in a decent spot. A lot of people liked our episode yesterday talking about why the Yankees are a better team than they were last year, and it's not even comparable. Like, they're a much better team. Not even marginally, they're significantly better, mainly because Juan Soto. Like, he makes you significantly better. And let's not ignore that fact. People appreciate the fact that we quelled the argument that they're a third-place team. The AL East is not very strong this upcoming season. I think that we could win the division easily if we play it up to our potential. Like, that's how good this team could be. But, Ryan, how are you feeling about the injury updates that we saw yesterday from Cashman? We said Rodon's doing well. He's rehabilitating. He's in the best shape of his life, quote unquote. And of course, Stanton has, kind of rejuvenated his body with a different diet, physique. He's slimmer, leaner. And then Jason Dominguez is making tremendous progress, and he should be ready in the summer. How are you feeling about those updates so far?
Yeah, so first and foremost, when it comes to the Blake Snell stuff, I think that the rejection of that offer indicates that the Yankees pivoted to Marcus Stroman. I think that they thought Blake Snell was their top option. That makes sense. Blake Snell is the reigning Cy Young winner. Of course, would be a top option over a guy like Marcus Stroman. That's no disrespect to Marcus Stroman, but again, we're talking about a guy who's a Cy Young winner versus a guy who's a pretty good pitcher. And so I don't think the Yankees are going to recircle those conversations. I think that's dead in the water. I think John Heyman mentioning it at this point is just more so to drum up talk. I'm not saying John Heyman's in Scott Boras' pockets, but John Heyman seems to be consistently talking about Scott Boras' clients. I think there's a reason why he's the guy comparing Cody Bellinger to future and former or future and current Hall of Famers, and why nobody else is. But in regards to where Carlos Rodon and Giancarlo Stanton's health are at, the Yankees are going to need them to be they don't have to be superstars. Like, Giancarlo Stanton doesn't have to win the MVP and Carlos Rodon doesn't have to win the Cy Young, but they're going to need to be key contributors for this team. Now, is Carlos Rodon going to have to be the second best pitcher on this team? Yeah, like we've talked about Stanton not having to be the second best hitter on this team. There's definitely more pressure on Rodon than Stanton, because Rodon you expect a lot more from him, and I think that's the big thing here. You expect a lot from Carlos Rodon. He hasn't given you any production as a New York Yankee yet, whereas Stanton has given you his spurts of production. You understood that at this point in the contract, things were going to start slowing down. Has it come a little bit sooner than we hoped? Absolutely. Like, I hoped with 4 years left that Stanton would still be a positive contributor for at least this point in his career, but he is an older guy. He's a larger guy. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. Like, you expect that. Rodon's, the point of that contract was he's supposed to give you a lot of value early on. So he's going to need to definitely do that. It's encouraging, and it's great that they're there in Florida early. Obviously, that's not mandatory for them to be there early, and whether they're early or not won't, I don't know how much of an impact that'll have on their viability, but the fact that they're willing to go out and do that indicates, look, I don't think you can deny their work ethic, right? Especially a guy like Giancarlo Stanton who's been here for a while. The question has never been the work ethic. And in the case of Carlos Rodon, I don't think the question is work ethic either. These are two, athletes who have been at the top of their game in previous years, as recently as 2022 and 2021. It's very hard and physically demanding to do that. It takes a lot of discipline. But at the end of the day, it's going to be up to production, right? Like, we're gonna look. Let's just get this out now. And I was talking to you about this, Alex, earlier. You're going to hear a lot of best shape of their life in great. Like, we've never seen an offseason. They've never had an offseason like this. Their offseason, their preparation's better than it's ever been. And I'm not sitting here saying it's not improved. I think everybody always makes adjustments and improves as they learn more through their careers. But let's be frank here. Like, everybody enters the year hoping to be a new and improved version of themselves. Now it's just a matter of whether the results will reflect that. And then in regards to where they stand in the division, look, it's a division full of a lot of teams who could make the playoffs. Absolutely, I think the AL East sent 3 teams to the postseason last year. The Yankees and Red Sox were 2 teams who didn't make it. The Red Sox didn't get considerably better, but projections say they should be a little bit better than they were last year. But no projection system really views any team in the AL East as like, oh yeah, this team, they're like dominant. Nobody's beating them. Like it's a foregone conclusion that the Atlanta Braves will win the NL East. It's a foregone conclusion that the Los Angeles Dodgers will win the NL West. There's no foregone conclusion for any division winner. It's kind of like one of those, it's like a 30% chance this team wins it, 35% chance this team wins it, 25, you know what I mean? One of those situations where it's like you take the field over a specific team, and I would take the field to win the division over like any team in the AL East, but I would say the Yankees are certainly in the best position to do so. I think they have the highest upside. I think they have the most star caliber talent. I think they have enough young talent to go toe-to-toe with anybody. And of course, you have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. Not many duos out there better than that. I know that the Dodgers have a nice conglomerate of talent there, but here's the big thing. They're out in the National League, right? Like, they can go win 110 games, and, the power of friendship Diamondbacks can knock them out again. Like, that's kind of the nature of baseball. You could argue the same thing for a dominant Yankee team, but my point more so is that I don't have to contest with the 2 teams I perceive as powerhouses until I get to the NL. And if you want to argue the Astros are a powerhouse, and look, if they add Josh Hader, they certainly are one of those type of teams. Then you don't have to face them until what, the ALCS, right? Like, you're not going to run into that team in your own division. You're going to see them 6 times a year. Like, you don't have to look at them as, all right, if we can't beat them out in the regular season, we have no chance of winning the division. I know that the big thing here is you've got to get through the AL. Like, the Yankees have not been able to do that since 2009. Like, we can't get ahead of ourselves and talk World Series when we haven't been there in 14 years. But end of the day, that's the expectations on this team. And look, that's New York. The expectations are going to be high. They're going to be vast. They're going to be higher than high. Like, they're going to be through the roof. You have Juan Soto, you have Aaron Judge. You're expected to win the World Series. It's just how that goes. But I think they're well positioned to do so. And I think the last piece here is just adding somebody for the bullpen.
Yeah, it could be Robert Stevenson for all we know, and the power of friendship is absolutely hilarious. That's exactly how it happened. But you know what? Looking at this Yankee team, guys, it really does come down to a couple of different players here, and the keys, honestly, in my opinion, the linchpins. We know Aaron Judge is a superstar. We know Juan Soto is a superstar. What we don't know is what version of Giancarlo Stanton we're going to get this year. What we don't know is what version of Carlos Rodon we're going to get this year. Those 2 players being unknowns at this point in time is what makes the upside so substantial. We saw both of their worsts. Like, they literally, both of them had career low seasons in 2023. Based on the numbers, based on the averages, they can't do that again. I think they understand they can't do it again, but Stanton clearly has honed down and he's working hard to shed weight, try to eliminate those injury issues and, increase his athleticism. The guy's like a freaking robot last year, man. He was like that tin can. And ultimately, I just don't think that we can, probability-wise, the math would say, and I think, Ryan, you'd support this notion, the math would say that what we saw last year won't happen again. And I do believe that we will see improvements. If Stanton gets worse, by the way, from last year, we should cut his ass. Like, straight up. Like, if he gets worse than last year, which was I think it was the 89 or 86 WRC plus, he get below 200, he should be cut, and we should eat that money because he is now wasting a roster spot. Like, that's how bad that would have to get. I don't think we're going to see that player. I think he's going to hit 230 with like a 330 OBP, but like 35 homers. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's probably what we see. It's a lot better. He probably ends up with like a 105, 110 WRC plus. You can survive because of the home runs, but I don't think he's going to get astronomically better. I think he'll be better, but not by a significant margin. Rodon, I think, will be significantly better. When healthy, this dude is a top pitcher. We signed him because he has that capacity. It's too soon to forget about his 2022 season. We had a 2.88 ERA, over 178 innings, a career high. I'm not willing to forget about that just yet. He has to get better. And, what Steinbrenner, or rather Cashman, said about those 2 guys yesterday in their progress, obviously he's not going to give us any bad news. And the fact that it's all positive, it does give me a little bit of hope and optimism. Dominguez, though, let's talk about his role. Because right now the Yankees invested 7 pitchers, including Michael King this offseason, to go get Soto and Alex Verdugo. You overturned your whole outfield aside from Judge. You have a brand new spanking Ferrari sitting in the freaking driveway right now in that outfield. That's what that looks like. The question is, what does Dominguez roll when he comes back? And the only way I think Dominguez really makes an impact in 2024 is if there's an injury and there's an opening for him to take. I don't think that he's going to play a big role on this team. If in a perfect scenario, in my opinion, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, in a perfect scenario, we don't see Dominguez on this team this upcoming year because that means Verdugo's killing it, Judge is killing it, and Soto's killing it. That's what that means. If you have Dominguez there to help fill in on a couple days here and there, maybe Stanton's injured, you need a DH, so be it. But I really just, at this point in time, like, I don't really want to see Dominguez because that means we need him. And that means that somebody's struggling, somebody's injured, somebody's failing. In fact, my preferred method here is if the Yankees are killing it and they're like locked into a postseason spot, last couple weeks of the season, get Dominguez some reps. But more so, I think working his way back in the minors, making sure he's ready to go, he's going to be our starting left fielder or center fielder in 2025. And for what it's worth, Spencer Jones could be right on the doorstep too. So, there's going to be options, alternatives, but I don't think seeing Dominguez is a good thing because that means that somebody else is failing, a guy that we spent a good amount of capital to acquire, whether it's Verdugo or Soto. We know Soto's not going to struggle offensively, but more so, anything could happen, knock on wood. Verdugo has had his liabilities. If they think Dominguez can come and make a better impact than him right now at that moment in the summer, whether it's August or July, I'm down for it. But that means that somebody's failing. So what is your take on Dominguez? He's obviously making great progress. And by the way, there was a photo I saw, and I want to get your take on this as well. Oswaldo Cabrera looks absolutely jacked. He put on at least 10 or 15 pounds of muscle mass, or at least weight. It looks like they're trying to increase his power, and that's becoming evident because he really struggled with that. What are you thinking in terms of Dominguez and, the obvious physique transition for Oswaldo?
Yeah, so first and foremost, when it comes to Jason Dominguez, as much as, again, I know people don't want to hear this. I get it. I understand. It's not fun, right, to say, like, yeah, perfect world, you shouldn't be relying on a 20-year-old switch-hitting outfielder with 8 games of MLB experience and, like, a cup of coffee in AAA to save your season and save your outfield. Because in a perfect world, Verdugo has that, he has his career year. He puts up that, like, 120 WRC plus. He plays a good left field. There are no headaches. You got to really cross the fingers for that one, knock on wood a little bit, you got to hope that, Aaron Judge is healthy all year and has his MVP caliber year, or crap, what if he finishes runner-up to Juan Soto in right field, right? Like, those are the ideal outcomes. Stanton bounces back and this and that. Obviously, we understand the ideal outcome does not usually always happen for every aspect of your team. There's usually at least 1 or 2 position groups, even on some really good baseball teams, that are downright atrocious or just not good enough. The Texas Rangers walked into the postseason last year without a bullpen. I'm sorry, like, that was not a bullpen. Aroldis Chapman was your best reliever. Like, I'm sorry, look, I'm an analytics guy, but we don't have to look at the numbers here. Aroldis Chapman can't get it done when it matters most. Like, let's all get that out of the room here, right? Like, we're Yankee fans. We've experienced it. We've lived it. When the moment's brightest, when the lights shine the brightest, Aroldis Chapman can't get the job done. I don't care what his postseason ERA is. I don't care what he did with Chicago Cubs. I don't care what he did in other postseason series with the Yankees. He ended 2, not 1, 2 different series with the Yankees. So Texas Rangers went into the postseason without a bullpen, like, just straight up without a bullpen and 2 starting pitchers, and they won the World Series, right? You're not going to be a perfect team at any point during the season. If you are a perfect team, you're lying to yourself, right? But with that being said, it's ideal that the Yankees don't have to force Dominguez out there. Now, it's interesting that Brian Cashman says we'll need him whenever he's ready, because I always anticipated that their offseason moves were so that they didn't have to rely on Dominguez. Now, is Brian Cashman saying that an indicator that he's going to call up Dominguez the second he's healthy? Not really. Like, Brian Cashman's going to do whatever he feels is right, and he doesn't feel like he has to abide to what he tells the media, which I think is fair. I would be a little bit kind of like, why are you doing this if you didn't really believe in it, right? Like, you shouldn't just make moves because you told the media you would do it. But with that being said, I want people to be excited about Jason Dominguez still, because the swing decisions are elite. Like, they're downright elite. Alex, he does not swing at anything out of the zone, and he swings a ton in zone, right? Like, to give you an example here, Alex Verdugo doesn't swing a lot out of zone, but he also doesn't swing a lot in zone. So, not that he's a bad swing decision maker, but he's not an elite swing decision maker. He's just passive, right? The same way you would view a guy with a low walk rate but an aggressive in-zone swing rate as aggressive, right? Like, it's just 2 sides, it's 2 opposite sides of the spectrum, but neither side's, definitively better than the other. In Dominguez's case, he blends both the best of both worlds. Very patient, but very aggressive at the same time in the right situations. And the raw power. Baseball America just released exit velocity numbers for their top 100 prospects, and Jason Dominguez was at 91.4 miles an hour. Now, that wasn't even second in the Yankee organization because Pereira and Jones tied for number 1 in all of minor league baseball at 93.8 miles an hour. But Dominguez has great raw power, much better hit tool than Pereira or Jones. So where we're talking about, hey, like, yeah, Jones and Pereira have more power, and they're pretty good, talented outfield prospects. But what makes Dominguez the better prospect is better swing decisions, better hit tool, better pizza Papa John's. No, I'm joking. But like, seriously, I think the offensive skill set is elite. I just don't think that we're going to see him get much time at the major league level, barring an injury or barring a struggle. But it's the Yankees, so somebody's going to get injured and somebody's going to struggle, I guess. And then as for Oswaldo Cabrera, this is a weird year for him. He's out of minor league options this year. This year he's done with his minor league options, I believe, so he has to be rostered after this year. He kind of has to make it or break it. If he's not very good this year, the Yankees are not going to find a reason to keep him on the roster. They'll DFA him. They'll find a guy to be a utility guy on a minor league deal. I think he's got to prove himself this year. Does prove himself this year mean put up a 120, 110 WRC plus? No, if it's a 95 WRC plus and positional versatility, he'll stick and he'll be a valuable major leaguer. But he's going to have to be better than what he was last year. And hopefully adding a little more power help with that. I mean, in an ideal world, he plays like his 2022 self, and we've got a 115 WRC plus hitter with versatility that can play all over the diamond. And kind of the really important thing here is he can play shortstop. And if the Yankees want to move Peraza and they want to go trade him for pitching, they can do that because Cabrera can play shortstop, and they have a backup shortstop in Cabrera. But the issue is that if Volpe were to go down, nobody wants Oswaldo Cabrera to play every day because he just hasn't proved that yet. So he's in flux. He's in a weird spot. I really do want to believe in him too because I think the personality is great. Like, I know that vibes and personality, they don't translate to wins, but I do think having a good clubhouse keeps your team together in stretches where you're not playing very well. And the Yankees have brought in a lot of divisive, I guess you could argue, personalities, like people that have made other people uncomfortable, at least in the media, but there haven't been reports about Stroman being a problem in the clubhouse, so at least that's a plus for the Yankees. But with that being said, to kind of wrap my point up here, Dominguez, probably won't see him for much this year if things go well for the Yankees at the major league level. If they don't, we'll see a lot of Dominguez, and if we see a lot of Dominguez, I think he'll do pretty well. And then for Cabrera, it's a make it or break it year. He's got to perform this year, or I don't really know what he's going to be on the Yankees going forward, if he's even going to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I love Oswaldo Cabrera. I love his energy. We saw what he did as a rookie. I do believe that there is a role for him on this team, but he's got to get better significantly as an offensive piece. We know what his value is as a defensive piece, but like, think about this. If another team's like, yo, I really like Oswald Peraza, we want him in our infield, and you're like, okay, we can afford to give up Peraza because we know Oswaldo Cabrera is good enough offensively now, he's gotten better, and he's a fine defensive player wherever you put him. Like, that gives you a little bit of cushion, and especially because he's an outfield piece as well. I do like Cabrera a lot. I think that he knows this, though. Like, if you're from a player's perspective, you're like, look, if I get better offensively, my value to this team is substantial. You know, I'm a really, really good utility piece that can play every single spot. I mean, he is like a better version of IKF, right? That's what ideally he would be because he's also a switch hitter. So I love Oswaldo Cabrera, love his value, but he's got to get better offensively, and I think adding a little bit of weight is going to help him add more power to his game. We're talking about extra base hits when he makes contact, hopefully better contact, and he's a high work ethic guy, right? Like, he didn't complain once when they sent him back down to AAA. He was like, all right, you know what? This is my chance to keep proving myself, keep working. His mentality is right. Now we just got to put it all together physically and on the field and statistically, which I think he can do. We've seen flashes of it, but inconsistent flashes. So that's where my opinion lies on Oswaldo, hoping the best for him. Obviously, his change in physique is the opposite of Rodon and Giancarlo Stanton, where they've cut weight and he's added weight. So they clearly see that, okay, they clearly implemented, by the way, like, this is becoming quite obvious now. They've implemented diets and physical, fitness plans this offseason for several players who they noted needed to change, right? Gleyber even looks a little thinner. I don't know if you've seen Gleyber on the streams lately. He looks a little skinnier. So, that kind of stood out to me. Waldo getting a little bigger. Maybe Volpe's got a little bit more muscle mass. I haven't seen him, in a situation where we could see his actual physical frame now, but I'm pretty optimistic that they're putting in place some big changes here to change the actual physiques of these players for the benefit of their game, tailoring it to an individual kind of strategy, whereas we haven't really seen that in the past personally. At least I haven't noticed it. This is like quite evident, quite obvious. So, guys, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts about this. Obviously, your confidence in this Yankee team right now, there are pieces that need to bounce back, but they're talented enough to do it. We know the talent is there. They just got to actually implement and put it on paper. So rather put it on the diamond. So I'm excited to see how that progresses. Obviously, we got a couple weeks here until things start to ramp up in terms of catchers and pitchers reporting to spring training. But Guys, Rodon's already down there. Jason Dominguez already down there. Oswaldo Cabrera, they're already down there, man. Like, these guys are getting to work early. This is what a championship operation looks like, though. Those guys are dying to get back on the field, dying to get the work in, dying to start their programs early so they're ready when the regular season comes. That's what you want to see. The young guys, the veterans, they're all showing up. Judgy, Cole, like, they're on that shit. And, like, ultimately, that is the mentality you have to win in this league, in any league. So I think that extra little bit of work ethic goes a long way. It builds familiarity, it builds camaraderie, it builds chemistry. And like you just said, the Diamondbacks won off of the power of friendship. Why can't the Yankees do that with insane talent in addition to that? So, that's my take right now. I think that people are sleeping on the Yankees a little bit. There's a lot of hot takes coming out about them not being very good. I think it's all crap. I think it's BS. This Yankee team has enough talent to do some special things. They just got to put it all together. And I think they have the leadership in that room to get it done. So, guys, always happy to hear your perspective down below in the YouTube comment section. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.